Hi guys, welcome to my channel, and as always I prepared one set of TOEIC speaking for you guys. I have prepared a set from November. It's very fresh, it's very new, it has all the trendy things inside, so let's dive right into it. First passage here starts with the word attention. Alright, so I'll read it out for you. Attention folks, the 10th annual smartphone conference will begin shortly. Please be sure to show your identification at the check-in tables. Snacks, beverages, and accessories such as chargers will be available for attendees in the main lobby in between sessions. Wow, that was such a long sentence. Now, while I was reading this, I figured that some words might be very difficult to read because they were long. And also, when you're reading out long English words, it's very important to actually show where the stress is. Normally, there's one stress, or sometimes if the word is too long, there could be two stresses. So the word smartphone, you do not have to say the T sound clearly. And the word conference has the first syllable stress. The word identification. See how long the word is? It's identification. The stress goes on the syllable CA. A is the vowel that has the stress, so it has to be identification. All right. Beverages, or in Korean we say accessory. But in English, it's accessories. So the stress has to go on the second syllable. And very, very difficult and challenging word is attendees. And I tell my students when there are two E's consecutively, then the stress normally goes onto those two E's. So it's not attendees or attendees, but it's attendees. The same thing goes on the word employees. So make sure you remember this. It could be very helpful for you to read the words, English words correctly, okay? So make sure to listen to me again how I make the sound using the right stresses of each and every word, okay? Attention folks, the 10th annual smartphone conference will begin shortly. Please be sure to show your identification at the check-in tables. Snacks, beverages, and accessories such as chargers will be available for attendees in the main lobby in between sessions. Okay, so again, I've noticed the last sentence is pretty long. According to the thing here that I'm looking at, it's like almost 2.5 lines long. So it's very important to have a deep breath every time you start to read out a sentence, okay? Breathe deeply and then read. Let's move on to part 2. It's a picture. It's a very, actually, the moment I looked and saw this picture, I felt like this chilliness because people are dressed up in heavy clothes, jackets, and some of them are wearing like, knitted caps, hats. So it seems like the weather is not so warm, and I really hate the cold weather. And currently Korea, it's winter time. It's freaking cold out there, so I really hate it. And even this morning, I woke up because it was cold in my bedroom. And what I see here is not a very, I don't like this scene. But anyway, it's given. It was on the test. And it's a scene of people at a park. I think it's a park. So let me time myself while describing the picture. And we're going to talk about some expressions that you guys might remember to use in your future test. So I'm going to time myself again. This is a picture taken at a park. There are several people in this picture. On the left side of the picture, I can see 4 people, and they look like a band. One of them is sitting down. He is wearing a red jacket and a hat. He is holding drumsticks and playing the drums. Around him, 3 people are standing, and all of them are playing musical instruments. One of them is playing the violin, 2 of them are playing the guitars, actually one of them is singing. And on the right side of the picture, I can see 2 people, and they're just, passing by the band. In the background of the picture, I can see many things such as green trees, a water fountain, and so on. And maybe people are having a great time at the park. All right, so that was it. That was exact 45 seconds as my timer shows. And I was talking about the band first because to me it looked like they are the main characters of the picture. So I said they look like a band. And, I happen to know all the words for those musical instruments. So I said he's playing the drums, she's playing the violin, the guys are playing the guitars. And this here, like when you have these things to play the drums, it's called the drumstick. So he's holding the drumsticks, not one, but two. So, and I described everything, every single thing that they're doing. And on the right side, actually the two people are not doing anything like that's standing out. So I just said they're passing by the band. They're just walking. They're just passing by. And in the background, as I, was describing the picture, I noticed, before I didn't know, but as I noticed that there's a water fountain there. There's a fountain. The water's coming out, I think. It's how it looks to me. So I said there are some trees and a water fountain. And actually, it's a typical scene of a park. And I said maybe they're having a good time. That's how I end it most of the times, right? So for this, I think it's very important for you guys to remember the expressions like he's playing the drums, not only one drum, but normally you have lots of drums, right? And she is playing the violin, he's playing the guitar, or they're singing, or maybe this expression, they are performing outside, okay? And when you're using the word outside, it is an adverb. I see a lot of Korean students making mistakes saying they're performing at outside. But you know what? You don't necessarily have to put the word at there because it's a adverb and adverbs don't need a preposition. So you can just say they're performing outside. All right? So make sure to remember that. And there were some scenes that included those people playing the musical instruments. So you might want to remember some names of the musical instruments like drums, guitar, sometimes there are violins. I've never seen piano, but some words. Or yeah, recently I saw a big bass, a person playing the big contrabass, okay? So that one too. All right. In case you don't know the name of the musical instrument, just say they're playing musical instruments, okay? They're playing or they're playing musical instruments. That's fine too. Okay, so that was, I think like out of 3 stars, I would give it 2 stars because it was a little tricky to talk about the performance and everything. Okay, and moving on to part 3. Whoa. Now, there were some students of mine who took the test on this day, and they were like shocked by looking at the topic for part 3, which was making donations. Making donations. It's a good thing to do, but it's really a hard topic to talk about when it comes to English. So because they didn't have the experience of talking about making donations in English, they were like, oh, teacher, it was so hard. I didn't know what to talk about and blah, blah, blah. So I told them, don't panic. Just try to use the sentences or the phrases that you know, and don't try to go further. Don't try to go too far. Don't try to talk about what you really want to talk about because that's the tricky part because you won't be able to say everything that you want to say in English. So just stick with the expressions that I tell you guys to use, okay? To make less mistakes. Okay, so first question is, when was the last time you made a donation and what was it for? Well, to me, it's a very simple question, but if you have no experience of talking about making a donation, it could be hard. So I would say, last month, I made a donation. I love animals, so I made a donation to an animal organization. It was very meaningful to me, and I was able to help animals, so I was very happy. Okay. So I talked quite fast, so it lasted for about 13 seconds, but I said, made a donation to something. I made a donation to an organization. I made a donation to, this orphanage. I made a donation to somewhere. Okay, made a donation to someplace. And I like the concept of making you guys an animal lover. So I always tell my students, go with the animal lover concept. You love animals, you like to take care of animals, you go to animal shelters, you make donations to animal organizations. Okay, second question. How do organizations attract donors to make donations? Now here, donors are the people who make donations, okay? So how do organizations attract donors to make donations? They do lots of advertisements and campaigns nowadays. For example, I use social media very often. I use Instagram all the time. And when I use Instagram, I happen to see lots of campaigns and ads about donations. Okay, that was exact 15 seconds. So, we can't deny that we're living in the world of social media these days, and especially a lot of Koreans, like in their 20s, 30s, and even in 40s, they use Instagram all the time. So it's a common thing. And when we use Instagram, we see all kinds of advertisements. So when it comes to attracting people, advertising, always talk about social media. Like you can say the word Instagram, it's okay to say Facebook, that you're seeing those advertisements on social media or on Facebook, on Instagram. It's okay to use those nouns, proper nouns, okay? Now, the third question, question 6. Which of the following fields would you be most willing to make donations to? Now, willing to. If you haven't done it, which one are you willing to? Would you be most willing to? So medical research, education for children, and small businesses. Okay, obviously I'm a teacher, so I would be most willing to make donations to education for children because I'm a teacher, I teach lots of students, and I want to provide better education for them. I want to make better materials. I want to make better environment. And as you can see, I want to help out children. And that's why I'm interested in education. I'm willing to make donations to education for children. And it would be very meaningful. It should be very helpful for them. And that's why I'm going to do so. Okay, so I kept on saying things about education because I'm a teacher. I want to provide them better materials, environment. I want to do something. I want to improve the education system of Korea. I want to help Koreans learn English better. I think, like they're studying English for 10 years, more than 10 years, but they somehow don't know how to speak English. That's a very unfortunate thing, right? So I really want to improve the environment. That's why I would be most willing to make donations to the education for children. So blah, blah, blah. I said it again. It's the same thing over and again. And here, medical research, somehow, I could talk about it because I can relate to me having thyroid cancer. And, I was lucky enough that they had cures for my cancer. I'm totally cured right now. But, some people have like those diseases that doesn't have a cure. And it's really, hard thing for them. Some people die nowadays for some certain kinds of diseases. So yeah, medical research, you can talk about that. Small businesses, I guess too, those startups nowadays, they're looking for investors and they sometimes have very creative ideas, but they just need money. They just don't have money to initiate the project. So maybe, I have a friend who had a creative idea and I wanted to support him. So I would like to, blah, 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 make donations to them. Those kind of things. So always try to come up with a backup story if you're going to talk about certain thing for more than 30 seconds or for more than 1 minute. Because just saying about something wouldn't make you or let you talk for a long time. Okay? Always provide with a supportive story, an example. All right, now we're going to move on to part 4. And on the top, it says Mobile Phone Application Development Seminar, which sounds very boring to me. Okay, but it doesn't matter. And on the top, there's also the information about the location and the date. It's December 12th. Okay, so when you're reading actually the date, even though it says December 12, you have to put the TH sound at the end. So you have to say December 12th. December 12th, right? And make sure you're using the right prepositions. On the left side, there is a time information. In the middle, there are the topics. Oh, I noticed there are some different kind of sessions. There's the opening speech, presentation, lunch. Ooh, good news for vegetarians. It says in the parenthesis, vegetarian options available. So whenever there's something specially mentioned on the chart, it's for sure they're going to ask you about it, okay? So make sure during your 45 seconds of preparation time, notice some special notes, special things, then, remember it. When you listen to the question, you can relate to it, okay? They're going to ask you about it when there's something specially mentioned. All right, there are the workshops, the Q&A session, and the names on the right side. Okay, so I think I'm gonna be ready. I'm ready for this. The first question says, when will the event start and end? Oh my gosh, it's so easy, okay? Well, it will start at 9:30 a.m. and it will finish at 3 p.m. Please keep that in mind. I still have lots of time remaining. And I keep telling you over and over again, for part 4, it's not that meaningful to talk for 15 seconds because it's actually sometimes impossible to talk for 15 seconds once you provide all the necessary information regarding the question. So Like that, please keep that in mind. I think that's good enough to, add. And for this question, what could have been tricky is, they said, what time will the event start and end? The starting time obviously is 9:30, but in the end, it's the last session will start at 2 and it will finish at 3. But sometimes I see my students say it will finish at 2 p.m. No, guys, that's like the last session will start at 2 and the whole thing, everything will end. Everything will finish at 3 p.m. So you have to be careful not to get confused. It's not the 2 p.m. It's not 2 p.m. it's going to finish. It's going to be 3 p.m. They're going to finally finish everything. So don't get confused. I see a lot of students getting confused for this kind of chart with that kind of question, okay? Now, the second question, I'm afraid I'm a vegetarian. I told you. Do you think I should prepare my own lunch? And I would say, actually, no, because vegetarian options are available, so you don't have to worry about it. Duh, right? And normally in the charts, they don't like to put the word be, is, are, am. Because, those words aren't necessary for people to understand the whole information the chart is providing. So it's been neglected. It's been taken out. So vegetarian options available. If you want to put that into a sentence, you have to say vegetarian options are available. That's what they're trying to test you on, right? So make sure to put that be verb there. Okay, and the last question, I would like to know everything about the workshops at the seminar. Excuse me. Could you please tell me all the details about them? Workshops. Now, obviously there are two, right? But I told you guys not to use just one kind of sentence. Use different forms of sentences. Show them you can play with the grammars, okay? So there are two. At noon, Lincoln Kelly will lead a workshop on identifying popular apps. And at 1 p.m., there will be a workshop on app development tips led by Sharon Mayer. And both of them should be very helpful for you. So those are the two workshops. Maybe you want to participate in them because they should be very, very informative and helpful for you. I still have time remaining after all that, additional talk. So again, I tell you, for part 4, once you provide all the information related to the questions being asked, you don't have to talk on and on and on because that's all you can say, right? That's all they asked for. Just give them the correct information as your answer and make sure you're using the correct grammars. That's what matters. Gosh, today, you know what? I've been talking on and on and on, and this is like my 7th hour of nonstop talking, and my throat hurts. Actually, it doesn't hurt, but it's sort of like going away. The voice is changing. Okay, so part 5 is a message from Zoe McCormick. Okay, so here it goes. Hello, I'm Zoe McCormick. I'm the manager at Callaway Sports Center. I've been doing well for the past 3 years. And these days, I'm trying to get set up a business plan for next year. I haven't done this before, and I didn't think that it would be very difficult. However, there seems to be a problem. The thing is, we need to find a way to attract more people to sign up for memberships and activities here at our sports center. I think it would be best if we could get parents to bring in their children and have them register for classes and activities. That would be very helpful for our business. The only problem is that I'm not sure how to do that. That's why I'm calling you for advice. Now, what do you think we should do? How can we get more parents to bring their children to our sports center to register? Please call me back at 555-3456 once you hear this message. Thanks. Bye. Okay. So whenever you hear a message, it's really useless to remember their names. It's really useless to remember their phone number. What's important is who the person is, what the problematic situation is, so you can relate to it and provide a customized solution. That's the most important thing. Customized, okay? So as always, I tell you guys, you have to use a template. It's better to use a template for this part. You're sure to speak for 1 minute, that's for sure. And you would fulfill everything that this part requires, which is you have to summarize what you've heard in the message. And second, you have to propose good solution, okay? So those two are already designed to be put in that template. So make sure to use the template, okay? Now, I will be speaking for 1 minute. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be speaking for 1 minute because I'm going to be using the template and I'll show you what I'm going to say. Hello, this is Gwen. I heard that you are the manager at the sports center and you're making a business plan for next year. However, there's a problem because you want to attract children to the sports center and unfortunately you don't know how to do it. So you'd like to get some help with this matter. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about the situation. However, I'm happy to say that there is a way to help you out. After looking into the situation, I came up with the following suggestions. I think it is a good idea to make a kids zone in the sports center. That should be very helpful. And why don't you make sports programs for kids? I mean, that should be very interesting too. Well, those are my suggestions. And if you need more help, just feel free to call me back anytime. Good luck! Call me back! Bye-bye! Ta-da! You see? You see that? I was able to speak for 1 minute. Okay. So I barely looked at the clock, I barely looked at the timer, and I was positive that I'll be speaking for 1 minute because I know what my template can do. So you guys use my template. You guys use my template. Now, I wanted to step out of my comfort zone. I didn't want to say give, kids a discount because that's so normal. I always talk about that all the time, right? So you guys know how to use that. Okay, so use it. But I wanted to provide you with more different kinds of solutions. Let's say, why don't you make a kids zone? Why don't you make a kids playground? Why don't you make some kids programs for kids, They like to play dodgeball. They like to play what? What do they like to play? Softball? They like to play something. So you got to make some sports programs for kids. I mean, they're going to love it, right? So those kind of things you can say that they're more customized to the situation. So you know how to say, give discount to kids. Very boring one. So use that and try to add with something a little bit more for the children. Because children matters. Children are very precious, right? Okay, now we're gonna move on to part 6. I don't know, guys. I've been talking nonstop and I think I'm going crazy here. I want to make talking about TOEIC speaking more fun. Every week I talk about the same thing over and over again and it's like the routine kind of thing. But I want to make it exciting and very interesting for you guys. So we're going to move on to part 6 and I'm going to try to make it sound interesting. The question is, what are some disadvantages of being on a guided tour when traveling around new places? All right, oh my gosh. I have my personal experience of being on a guided tour. I'm pretty sure you guys do have, personal experience about being on a guided tour. And if you guys haven't been on a guided tour, I would say there are some ups and downs. Okay, one thing good about being on a guided tour, that was the time I went on the trip to Vietnam with my family. And because I had my parents with me, I didn't want them to get exhausted. I didn't want them to walk around in the road. So we had no options but to take a guided tour. And this guide, we were fortunate. This guide he was a Vietnamese, but he knew how to speak Korean perfectly. I mean, perfectly. So I asked him how he knew and got to know how to speak Korean. And he's like, you know what? He used to work in Korea. So because he knows how to speak Korean, he moved back to Vietnam and now he's dealing with all these Korean tours. That was 3 years ago. And since then, so many Koreans have been visiting Vietnam. So it's like he's got business going. He, even back then, he was making tons of money. He told me he was making about $1,000 per month in Vietnam, which is a lot of money. So he was quite successful back then, and I'm pretty sure he is more successful now. But those were some advantages. But disadvantage. This question is asking about disadvantage, and I would say it was tough. Even for me, because when you're on a group tour, guided tour especially, you're moving around with a group of people and you have to follow this very strict schedule, right? So we have to no matter how we are tired, how much we're tired, we have to get up really early in the morning. We have to meet them at this meeting point by 9 so we can finish everything. You can cross things out off of the list. So it was really, I don't know. I don't like that kind of like traveling. So it wasn't my style, but my mom and dad liked it. They liked visiting like those museums. They liked visiting those historical sites. We went up the mountain where there was this like, little amusement park built by the French people while they were colonizing. So that was amazing. But if I were there freely on my own with my friends, I wouldn't do that kind of thing. So that was good and bad at the same time. So I think I would use that kind of thing as my example. But here, I'm going to talk about New York, the same plain old New York story, and what was bad about it, because it's going to be some disadvantages of being on a guided tour when traveling around new places. So listen up. I think there are some disadvantages of being on a guided tour when traveling around new places. There are several reasons to support my opinion. Most of all, I don't have much freedom. For example, last year I went on a trip to New York. It was the first time for me to go there. I didn't have any experience traveling abroad, so I didn't know what to do there. So I joined a guided tour. At that time, I met a nice tour guide named Tom. We visited many places in New York, such as Times Square, Central Park, and so on. He told us many things about New York. It was very helpful and informative. However, I didn't have freedom. I had to follow the schedule. I wasn't able to go wherever I wanted. I wasn't able to eat whatever I wanted. And most of all, I wasn't able to rest whenever I wanted. It was so frustrating. Overall, I didn't like it, and that is why I think so. Exact 1 minute. Okay, so the reason why I tell you guys to stick with the New York version is because some of the words used there are more familiar. So you know how to say them right. You know how to say them with the right pronunciation. Like the place I was in Vietnam was Da Nang. I know how to say it in Korea, Da Nang, but I'm not sure how they say it exactly, like precisely in Vietnamese, which is the native, the sound for Da Nang. And I'm not really comfortable saying the word pho. Of course, we went there, we ate some pho noodles. And all those things that I, encountered in Vietnam, those are some Vietnamese native words, right? So you gotta know how to say it either in Vietnamese correctly or in English. And if you're not sure how to say them right, then just stick with some comfortable words. Like I always tell my students, you guys, no matter where you've been, it's gonna be New York, it's gonna be Manhattan, it's gonna be Central Park, Times Square, and the guy or friend or tour guide, whoever you meet there is gonna be Tom. Because those are some words you know how to say. So just stick with it when it comes to test, when it comes to TOEIC speaking test. And after the test, or when you are more confident in speaking English, study a little bit more, do your research, and figure out how to say the words that you want to say in the right sound, and use them in your everyday conversation. And that's how you expand your horizon, expand your ability of speaking English. Okay? So again, we've finished all 6 parts, all 11 questions. They were very moderate, I would say. Nothing very abnormal, nothing very, outraging. I would say part 3 might have been very shocking because they were talking about making donations. But now, because we talked about it, you have no excuse for that, right? So until next week, guys, do your training, do your exercising, because speaking is not about watching the video, not listening to the lecture, but it's you practicing. So after practicing, I'll see you back here. Bye.